The myth of meritocracy, why Black success isn't just about hustle. When we talk about success in America, we often hear the same narrative: work hard, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, and you'll achieve your dreams. It's a compelling story, it's a familiar story. And for many Black professionals and entrepreneurs, it's a dangerously incomplete story. I recently had the profound honor of interviewing Cherul Rosemond, whose transformative insights have fundamentally altered how I understand the journey of Black professionals in America. Cheryl isn't just an advocate for economic equity, she's a revolutionary force dismantling barriers that have stood for generations. Her unwavering dedication to creating pathways for underrepresented communities has made her not merely a voice of hope, but an architect of practical solutions that are reshaping the landscape of opportunity across our nation. What if I told you that the success gap for Black professionals and entrepreneurs isn't primarily about individual talent or ambition? What if the conventional wisdom about just working harder not only misses crucial pieces of the puzzle, but actively perpetuates systems of inequality? This is the uncomfortable truth that emerged from my conversation with Cheryl. The gap isn't just about effort, it's deeply rooted in systemic factors like generational access, inherited business knowledge, and community support networks that many take for granted, but have been systematically denied to others. We've been sold a powerful myth that with enough determination, anyone can overcome obstacles and achieve their dreams. It's a comforting belief. It suggests a fair playing field, but the data tells a dramatically different story. Black business owners are significantly less likely than their white counterparts to have had family members who owned businesses. They're less likely to have received early exposure to entrepreneurial skills. This lack of what researchers call inherited business human capital makes a measurable, profound difference in outcomes, affecting everything from sales and profits to the very survival of Black owned businesses. Think about that for a moment. Before the first loan application is submitted, before the first business plan is written, before the first customer walks through the door, there's already a deep structural disparity in access to the knowledge, networks, and resources that make success not just possible, but probable. This isn't about diminishing the importance of personal responsibility or hard work, those remain essential. But it is about acknowledging that the starting line isn't the same for everyone. And that recognition fundamentally shifts our conversation from blaming individuals for not doing enough to understanding the broader context we're all navigating. As Cheryl powerfully emphasized, this perspective doesn't disempower, it actually illuminates paths forward that might otherwise remain hidden in the shadows of our collective denial. Let me share three critical insights from our conversation that challenge how we typically think about success for Black professionals and entrepreneurs. First, community matters profoundly. Success is rarely, if ever, a solo journey. It's shaped by networks of support: family, mentors, peers, not just individual hustle. When these networks are limited by historical and systemic factors, the journey becomes exponentially more difficult. The myth of the self made individual obscures the reality that nobody succeeds entirely alone. Second, systemic barriers are real and measurable. From access to capital and credit disparities to fewer opportunities for early business experience, structural obstacles persist. Acknowledging them isn't making excuses, it's the first step toward creating effective solutions. We cannot solve problems, we refuse to see. Third, your journey is valid, whatever it looks like. Whether you're supporting family on a modest income or building a business without generational wealth, your progress counts. Every step forward helps redefine what success looks like in our communities. The metrics of achievement handed down to us aren't the only ones that matter. These insights aren't just theoretical abstractions. They are backed by compelling research and real world examples that Cherul shared during our conversation. Consider a groundbreaking study published by the University of Chicago Press that analyzed why African American owned businesses consistently lag behind white owned ones in sales and profits. The researchers found that lack of prior work experience in family run businesses significantly limited the acquisition of essential business skills among Black entrepreneurs compared with their white peers. Imagine growing up never seeing someone who looks like you running a successful business. Imagine having no one in your family to teach you about profit margins, inventory management, or customer acquisition. Imagine having to learn every lesson the hard way through trial and error, while others inherit generations of knowledge. Many participants in this study came from backgrounds where entrepreneurship was entirely new territory. Few had parents who were self employed. They were pioneering paths without maps or guides, facing obstacles that remained invisible to those who had never experienced them. But here's where hope enters the story. The same research found that programs focused on mentorship and targeted skill building helped participants fill these gaps. Entrepreneurs with access to such resources saw improved performance metrics over time. They experienced increased survival rates for their firms and higher average annual profits than control groups without intervention. This highlights something crucial. When we create community based training programs tailored specifically for aspiring Black entrepreneurs, we can begin to address these historical disparities. We can create new pathways to success that don't rely on advantages that were systematically denied to previous generations. The barriers extend far beyond business ownership. Cherul pointed to a recent lending tree analysis that found nearly 1 out of 5 Black homebuyers was denied financing in 2024, a rate almost twice as high as other applicants across America. These high denial rates stemmed mainly from lower credit scores among Black applicants, which itself is a legacy issue rooted in historical inequities around wealth building opportunities. When your grandparents and parents face systematic exclusion from home ownership through practices like redlining, the ripple effects continue for generations, affecting everything from your ability to secure loans to your capacity to weather financial emergencies. But again, there are bright spots that illuminate the path forward. In communities where organizations launch financial literacy workshops focused on improving credit health, and where advocates push for policy changes at local banks, the denial rate gap shrank compared with national averages. This demonstrates tangible impact when barriers are addressed head on rather than ignored or dismissed. These examples illustrate how entrenched financial barriers affect not only homeownership, but also entrepreneurial risk taking capacity. After all, how can you take the leap to start a business when you're struggling to secure basic housing stability? How can you focus on innovation when basic financial security remains elusive? Let me share one more powerful example from our conversation with Cherul. Tenalytics has helped over 2,800 professionals, including many caregivers and nurses, transition into high paying tech careers over 4 years through targeted upskilling programs. A significant number of these professionals face bias when applying for roles outside traditional sectors. This bias stemmed both from employer perceptions and from lack of direct connections and networking opportunities common among other demographics. They had the talent, the drive, and the potential, but were missing the bridges that others cross without a second thought. The company provided intensive mentorships plus practical projects tailored specifically toward breaking into tech and data roles, with an emphasis on transferable skills gained through caregiving professions. Numerous clients successfully secured analyst and project management positions, even those previously earning hourly wages with limited advancement opportunities. Tenalytics was founded after observing repeated struggles by skilled immigrants and BIPOC workers trying unsuccessfully to break into more lucrative fields despite clear aptitude. Today, a growing alumni network providing peer support and resources reaches across the UK and North America, creating the very connections that were previously missing. This model demonstrates scalable pathways out of poverty cycle jobs, forging new definitions of career growth within our communities. It shows what's possible when we address both skills gaps and connection gaps simultaneously, when we recognize that talent is universal, but opportunity is not. What these examples reveal is something profound about how we should think about success. The narrative of individual achievement isn't wrong, it's just dangerously incomplete. It fails to account for the complex web of factors that enable or constrain opportunity. It celebrates the summit without acknowledging the different mountains people must climb. In our current era, as we learn to release the cape of the superwoman syndrome that has burdened so many Black women, we must also release the myth that success is solely an individual achievement. As Cherul reminded me, true strength isn't found in struggling alone, it's found in building and leveraging community power. This perspective doesn't diminish personal responsibility. Rather, it expands our understanding of what creates opportunity. It helps us see that addressing systemic barriers isn't about making excuses. It's about creating more pathways to success for everyone. It's about making the playing field truly level, not just pretending it already is. For Black professionals navigating these realities, Cheryl offered wisdom that resonated deeply. Your journey is valid. The progress you're making matters, even when it doesn't match conventional definitions of success. Every step forward helps redefine what achievement looks like in our communities. So, where do we go from here? How do we move forward with this more nuanced understanding of success? First, we must continue building and strengthening community networks that provide the knowledge, connections, and support that weren't inherited. Mentorship programs, skill sharing initiatives, and intentional community building aren't luxuries. They're essential infrastructure for success. Second, we must advocate for policy changes that address systemic barriers, from access to capital and credit to educational opportunities. Individual effort matters, but so do the structures that enable or constrain that effort. Finally, we must redefine success itself. In a world that often measures achievement in dollars and titles alone, we can expand our metrics to include community impact, personal well being, and the ability to lift others as we climb. I challenge you today. Examine your own definition of success. Question where it came from and who it serves. Ask yourself what advantages you've had that others might not. Not to diminish your achievements, but to understand the full context of your journey. Then take action. Mentor someone who doesn't have access to your networks. Advocate for policies that create more equitable opportunities. Support Black owned businesses, not just with your dollars, but with your connections and knowledge. Because the truth is this: we don't just need to help individuals navigate broken systems, we need to transform the systems themselves. We need to build new pathways to success that don't require inherited advantage. We need to create communities of opportunity where everyone can thrive. This isn't just about fairness, though that would be reason enough. It's about unlocking the full potential of our society. It's about creating a world where talent meets opportunity, regardless of background. It's about building an economy and a culture that works for everyone, not just those who started with a head start. The myth of meritocracy has comforted us for too long. It's time to embrace the more complex, more challenging, and ultimately more hopeful reality. That by acknowledging systemic barriers, we can begin to dismantle them. That by building community power, we can create new pathways to success. That by redefining achievement, we can all rise together. The journey won't be easy, but as Cherul has shown us, it is absolutely possible. And it begins with each of us having the courage to see the full picture and the commitment to change it. Thank you